Everyone for joining us today for this press conference. With me here today, we have John Scrivani, the State Coordinator for Virginia Department of Emergency Management. We have Stephen Britch, the Commissioner of Virginia Department of Transportation, Jeffrey Katz, the Superintendent of Virginia State Police, and Brigadier General Todd Hubbard with the Virginia National Guard. We also have Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security, Stanley Metter, and Secretary of Transportation, Nick Donahue. We are here today because Virginia is expecting a large winter storm that is predicted to impact the entire Commonwealth. I have just signed an emergency declaration due to the impending large winter storm. The declaration will allow state agencies to be prepared for impacts all across the Commonwealth. We are expecting large amounts of snowfall, freezing rain, and sleet. And we also expect Virginia will experience dangerously low temperatures, power outages, and unpredictable road conditions. Virginia agencies across the Commonwealth are currently preparing for this large-scale storm. The Virginia Department of Transportation is prepared for this multi-day storm response. They have begun with pre-treating and will have resources pre-positioned across the state so they can clear snow, address ice conditions, clear disabled vehicles, and obstructed roadways. Virginia Department of Transportation will prioritize our interstates and primary roads, and if the storm comes in as predicted, it will take time for roads to be cleared and passable. So I am asking all Virginians to spend this time getting prepared for this incoming storm. And then I am asking all Virginians to stay off the roads as of Saturday night, all day Sunday, through Monday morning. This will allow not only for the safety and security of our neighbors, but it will allow for faster clearing of roads and ensure greater safety during what we expect will be the most dangerous times on the roads. The Virginia National Guard will be mobilizing their troops to be ready to assist in debris clearance and emergency response in coordination with state and local agencies. And before we take your questions, I'm going to turn it over to John Scrivani, the State Coordinator of the Virginia Department of Emergency Management.
Thank you, Governor. Welcome to the Virginia Emergency Operations Center. As the Governor mentioned, this is going to be a significant and dangerous storm. One piece that we just have to focus on as well is after the precipitation stops, it is going to be very cold for multiple days, probably through Thursday. So we want to make sure everybody is prepared, as the Governor mentioned. VDEM is coordinating closely with state agencies, local partners, our private sector, and utility partners. That goes across VDOT, Department of Health, Department of Energy, Department of Education, as well as our utility partners. We have a full court press on for this event. Our agencies coordinate for these types of events year-round, so we are prepared. That is the key here. We also have our federal partners participating in all of our meetings and here in the Emergency Operations Center. We have National Weather Service and FEMA present today. I want to finish with just a few short items as reminders. You need to listen to trusted information sources as you get your information about this storm and as you make decisions. Please do not follow anything that isn't trusted. Listen to your local elected officials, your local government. They will share information that we push forward. Also, emergency alerts in these types of situations are very important. If your phone is not activated or accepting wireless emergency alerts, please do that now. We may need to send those at some point. The last thing I will hit is on that preparedness. Please check on your neighbors, especially those that are elderly or have special needs. Preparedness is key. This is going to be a Commonwealth-wide event. All the people of the Commonwealth need to be paying attention to this. And if you will be coming and traveling through the Commonwealth this weekend, please check the road conditions before you try to come through on the weekend. Thank you very much, Governor. I'll pass it back to you.
And now we're prepared to take questions, and I might direct them to some of the leadership behind me, depending upon the question.
Governor, thank you for holding this. A few days on the job, this is the first test of you and leadership. How are you feeling heading into this right now, preparations and everything ahead of the storm?
Well, I want to thank the entire Virginia Department of Emergency Management because last month we did a tabletop exercise that was meant to ensure that I, as the incoming governor at that point, knew the extraordinary coordination that occurs in this very place, the preparation that, as Mr. Scrivani mentioned, is happening year-round. And interestingly, the tabletop exercise that we went through prepared for a large-scale winter storm with snow, sleet, and freezing rain conditions. So we have gone through this practice exercise, not anticipating that certainly the first week we'd be facing this, but I have full confidence in the leadership of the folks here behind me, and importantly, the people who will be doing the work across our Commonwealth, coordinating across state agencies out on the roads, and ensuring the safety of our neighbors and the as quick as possible return to passability on the roads and easier movement once we get through the storm. Thank you.
Governor, you have a lot of new cabinet members, you've got new agency heads. Can you talk about what they're doing within their agencies to, whether it's improve communication or just start those lines of communication? Obviously, some folks have only been in the job for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, well, and I'll speak to this, and then I will turn it over if anyone wants to add. Certainly, we've got some folks who are new to a particular job title, but not new to the job of, be it transportation. Certainly, Secretary Donahue spent an extraordinary amount of time in leadership within the Virginia Department of Transportation. And so while the title's new, the experience of contending with winter storms and the impact on our roads is not new. Certainly Secretary Metter, new to the title, but not new to a large-scale emergency response. Superintendent Katz in his role, certainly new to this title, but not new to the impact across our roadways that large-scale storms can have and the need for local, state, real true coordination in order to ensure the safety and security of the first responders out there trying to clear roadways, trying to get power lines back up when they fall, and also in trying to ensure the safety of motorists who may become stranded. Would anyone want to add to that?
Hey, Governor, I was going to ask regarding the transportation issue. I know it's early on, but can you talk about how soon the roads might be treated or cleared, rather, especially the main roadways? I know we're in those really cold temperatures where some of the pre-treat might not be as effective. And then additionally, I know we're a year removed from the water crisis in Richmond. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people are concerned about that. Anything you can talk about communications with the city on that front?
So I'll speak briefly and then turn it over to Commissioner Britch if he'd like to add any additional points. The important piece here is that looking at the weather reports as we are seeing what's anticipated, the mix of snowfall, the mix of freezing rain, sleet, and then very low temperatures will make this a difficult storm to respond to and will elongate the amount of time it will take to clear roads. Virginia Department of Transportation is prioritizing the clearing of our interstates and those primary roads to ensure the ability to transport people to hospitals and to ensure sort of basic function. But it will be a number of days before people will begin to see neighborhood roads cleared and a return to what we would consider a normal ability to travel across our Commonwealth. But the work that's being done now, whether it is through pretreatment or movement of resources and the ability to respond, that work is either happening now or in the planning phases right now. And Commissioner Britch, I'll turn it over to you in case.
Right behind
there
you.
You are.
Thank you, Governor. Just a quick update on the pre-treatment activities that we have ongoing. You're going to see all of our interstates and high-volume primaries being pre-treated with brine solution starting today and concluding by close of business tomorrow. Our crews will be mobilizing at its highest level, Mobilization 5, across all 9 of our districts. That means that we will have close to 10,000 pieces of equipment moving in response to this storm statewide. Part of this, too, is recognizing that we will have potential for icing conditions on the southern half of the state We are mobilizing our tree crews to be able to be in the neighborhoods and making sure the trees are clear. If there are down power lines, we're coordinating with the power companies to be able to make sure those lines are de-energized before we get in there. As the governor has indicated, that this is a significant Commonwealth storm, probably the first time that we've seen close to, in Northern Virginia and Northern Shenandoah Valley, anywhere between 18 to 23 inches, at least forecast. It will take time for us to clear the roads. The governor's indicated that our first priority is our interstate system, as well as high volume primary roads to our area hospitals and whatnot. Our second tier is going to be our lower volume primary roads, then our secondary roads, and then neighborhood roads. It is possible that some localities or some subdivisions will not see a VDOT snowplow for anywhere up to 24 to 48 hours after the snow is concluded. So this is a very significant storm for us. We're constantly monitoring the snowfall rates, and that will depend on how fast we can get into the subdivision streets. So as the governor said, now's the time to be able to prepare, recognize that it will take some time to be able to get into the neighborhood streets based upon this level of snowfall, but it's something that we will continue to monitor and shift resources as needed. Thank you.
Governor, it's obviously a big regional weather event. Can you describe any interactions you've had with officials in D.C., Maryland, and even the White House to coordinate for this?
So as of right now, and I will turn it over to Mr. Scrivani to further comment on this, it is expected that this snow is going to impact not just Virginia, though the entirety of the Commonwealth, but our neighbors in North Carolina and West Virginia in particular will be heavily impacted. I will be doing, at the conclusion of this press conference, some outreach to our direct neighbors, but I have spoken to leadership in other potentially impacted states about what it is that they are seeing on the ground and how it is that they are preparing. Certainly, I'm grateful we have some individuals here with us today from the National Weather Service and from FEMA, and depending upon the ongoing impacts of this storm, may need to move forward with requests for an emergency declaration at the federal level. Mr. Scrivani, would you add anything additional to that?
Yes, ma'am. So we have constant outreach, as the governor mentioned, with FEMA. We also have calls scheduled with the White House, the National Security Council, and DHS today. They have outreach to us directly. We are getting on the calls with them. They are interested in leaning forward and providing support as we ask for it. We have more team members from FEMA showing up today, so that outreach has been seamless at this point. They have pushed forward, and they're leaning in as well as we. Thank you.
Governor, a lot of Richmond residents are very uneasy about this upcoming storm. The last time we had a storm this big, we were without water for 6 days. Can you talk about any communication between the state and localities, specifically Richmond, and what people in Richmond can expect, as far as safety going into this?
So I'll begin with this question, and then again, Mr. Scrivani, if you would like to add anything. Certainly, I mentioned in response to an earlier question that we had run through tabletop exercises related to this specific type of storm last month. And part of what we have seen in the Commonwealth of Virginia over the last year is recognition of, how a confluence of real negative circumstances can create what we saw in the city of Richmond last year. And so there's been much planning over the past year to ensure that any now identified potential challenges or weaknesses in the system, as we witnessed in Richmond, could be mitigated. So part of the larger Virginia Department of Emergency Management efforts, and the folks who will be represented here will include those who are focused on ensuring access to water and the actual function of our water treatment plants and our water facilities.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thanks for that question. So the way the Virginia Department of Emergency Management is structured is we have regional offices. Our regional coordinators work with all the local emergency managers. Obviously, the city of Richmond is in our backyard, so I also speak directly with their emergency management team. Specific to the water, the city did an after action. The mayor has been pushing forward. I can't speak to their infrastructure and the status of it. That would be a question for their team. But I do know that if they need any support, they haven't asked for any outreach yet related to their infrastructure, but our team is working very closely with them at the regional level. And if they have any larger requests, as with the water, that would come here to the Emergency Operations Center, and we would support them.
Can you speak to emergency management planning in Southwest Virginia specifically, which is a very beautiful but topographically difficult region for storms such as these?
Yeah, well, and certainly, and I'll again turn it over to Mr. Scrivani, but also Commissioner Britch might have some specific comments related to particular challenges on roadways. Virginia Department of Transportation is planning to identify certain hotspot locations where there are traditionally larger issues with vehicles on roadways, particularly with these difficult conditions, recognizing the terrain in Southwest has its own particular challenges. That is one concern. And then from a regional perspective, I'll defer to Mr. Scrivani to speak specifically about the planning within that region.
To take the question with regard to Southwest Virginia and its transportation system, and Southwest Virginia is not, they are not immune from typical snowstorms throughout the year. In fact, they receive typically about anywhere between 3 to 8 inches of snow. The forecast for Southwest Virginia in this storm is very similar to a regular mobilization. We will, as the governor said, we are pre-treating the roadways. We are pre-staging equipment, heavy tow contractors to be able to remove commercial heavy vehicles out of the traffic stream if they do get stuck. We have tractors and motor graders that if we do need to clear larger amounts of snow, we're prepared to do so.
And on the regional coordination, similar to what I said about the city of Richmond, we have our regional offices in Southwest Virginia. They are working very closely with their local emergency managers and the local town officials. We also have a large activation of the National Guard coming, and we're going to stage them throughout the state just for unknowns, as well as the state police as a footprint across the entire state. And there's a lot of other state agencies that are going to help and lean into this. That's the reason why we activate this room, is as unique challenges come up, here's where we try to solve them. We try to solve them at our Regional Coordination Center, and if they need additional support, we bring it here to the EOC. But fortunately and unfortunately, we've seen a lot of events in Southwest Virginia in the last few years. The team is very familiar with where our areas are that have the most challenges, and we work very closely and we have good relationships with their team. So if it's a power outage and they need to open a warming center, they have those pre-identified. We can support them if they have any needs, and we're prepared to do that.
Governor, I have a question about ICE, but a different kind. Are you concerned that Virginia may be the next state on the list of federal immigration enforcement operations, and what do you intend to do about it?
I think, and I'll speak to this briefly because I do want to make sure we're able to touch on all questions related to the winter storm. My executive order, repealing Executive Order 47, was an important first step in ensuring that we are not moving or reallocating state and local resources away from the first responder duties that I think today highlights just how extraordinarily important, whether it is investigating crimes or being ready to support a community in need, that the prior Executive Order number 47 had created some real challenges. Ultimately, I am looking into every step forward that we can take as a Commonwealth to ensure that our communities are safe and protected, and that any efforts to any law enforcement activities within the state are understood to be what they are. Frankly, the fear and concern that we've seen in other places where people without any sort of designation, unannounced, wearing masks are taking people off the streets, the level of fear that that's created and the level of distrust and confusion that creates is certainly not contributing to any strengthening of our communities, let alone keeping our communities safer. So we are continuing on working in coordination with Secretary Metter to ensure that Virginia can be an example for the rest of the country in terms of how it is that we recognize and delineate the differences between law enforcement activity, particularly those where there's a warrant in hand, and the types of sort of large-scale mass activities that create confusion, distrust, and ultimately, as we've seen in Minnesota, tragedy.
Have there been any challenges with coordinating with federal agencies? There's been a lot of changes at FEMA and reductions to NOAA and their weather monitoring capabilities. Is there any more insight on how challenging or smooth that coordination has gone?
For us, the coordination has been fine. Even throughout all the changes in 2025, we've had no hiccups. Again, there's had some staff changes at the senior levels, but we've always had a presence here at the EOC. We have an NWS person that sits right behind that wall, and we have FEMA staff that sit not very far from my office at our headquarters, and we have a team here that's still working the Helene disaster. So our coordination with the federal government has been seamless. Our partners in FEMA Region 3, I've been on calls with them all morning. All the Region 3 state directors are going to have a call today because we're all being impacted by this storm. We want to make sure that we're coordinating the federal support as well as we're not stepping on each other with contracting. As we contract in support, we don't want to be in conflict with the other states, right? So we make sure that we're walking through that very seamlessly. But there's been no hiccups for us.
Excuse me, Governor, thanks very much for hosting this. Just heard from a 17-year-old in Northern Virginia whose father was reported by ICE and says he's now afraid to call the police because of it. As we enter this emergency, what's your message for immigrant Virginians who are afraid to call police at this time?
I thank you for giving that example because that's exactly, I think, to Mr. Schmidt's question, that's exactly what we are trying to get at with the issuance of my executive order on Saturday, and ultimately how we will determine how Virginia proceeds, is that, and I say this as someone who grew up in a law enforcement family and began my career in law enforcement, the idea that any community member would be afraid of calling the police in a time of need if there's an emergency in their home is a tragedy in and of itself. And the fact that it would be as a result of the types of large-scale operations that are sowing fear and not resulting in what was at one time the promised intention of identifying and arresting those who have committed crimes. I think it's an unfortunate reality of where we are now. So at this moment, to answer your question, my message to all Virginians would be please listen to the requests that we are putting out. Please stay off the roads, particularly beginning Saturday night, all day Sunday, and into Monday. Let those who are endeavoring to clear the roads do their job, do it safely, and please keep the roads clear for those who might have an emergency. But if someone needs to call police, having a health emergency, need to call first responders, my message would be please do so and ensure the safety of your friends, neighbors, or family, and stay warm.
Making a phone call to ensure that the safety of the immigrant Virginian who's concerned about getting snatched by ICE.
I would say in all of our coordination, the priority is, and whether it's local state police or Virginia National Guard resources that, depending upon the region, might be supporting responses. Their goal, their intent in this emergency is to get people who need to get to a hospital, to get people who are stranded on the roads back home to someplace safe. Those who, are in danger, to get them someplace safe, whether it's a warming station or to a hospital. That is the goal of our response in this moment. And anyone who is afraid as it relates to kind of some of the larger scale immigration, our enforcement efforts, our goal, our intent, and what we expect to see is that folks on the road are doing response duties to emergencies or to in efforts to clear roads.
Well, we have one more time. Hey, Governor, my question is also about the Richmond water system.
Yeah.
The city has requested $80 million in state funding. Governor Youngkin did not put that in his budget proposal. I know we're still in kind of the early stages of the state budget, but to the extent that having running water is important to the continuity of state government in a situation like this one, have you given any thought to whether the state should be kicking in money to make the Richmond water system as strong as it can be?
So I have looked at and reviewed a variety of the proposals coming through. Certainly, I'm aware of efforts both specific to Richmond or in the greater Henrico, Richmond, Chesterfield region, and the bills and versions of them that have been drafted. I'm aware that the $80 million was not in the budget that was put forth by the governor, and I've been in communication with regional or local leaders about how we should move forward beginning now to ensure that old and aging water systems are indeed functional.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
Hun, take Airborne. It'll help fill those holes your immune system may have.
Holes. Take Airborne. It gives you 7 key immune-supporting nutrients, including vitamin C, D, and zinc. It's our most complete support yet.